Um, Very warm welcome to you guys, and thank you for being here. Hubert Jan is the transformation lead of E.ON, and Philip Stoeber is working for Westnetz, which is one of the opcos of E.ON. And they are going to share a story with us about how they used problem solving for a very high risk activity. So please enjoy, and if you have any questions, please use the Q&A button, and I will collect them and ask the questions at the end of the presentation.
Okay.
So Philip and Hubert Jan, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mieke, for the introduction. And we're very happy to present over here in this Lean Global Connection, the winner of this year's problem-solving competition that we had internally, which was actually this project. So a quick introduction. I am joined over here by my colleague, Philip Stoeber.
Yes, hi, my name is Philip. I'm 40 years and working as safety engineer for Westnetz. And Westnetz is a distribution system operator in the western part of Germany, as you can see on the map. So, of course, we also do provide electric energy to our customers, and that's about what we are talking about today.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Hubert Jan den Hartog. I work in the operational excellence team for E.ON. So E.ON is the largest gas and electricity grid operator in Germany, and one of the largest in Europe. And you can see a small map of Germany on the right-hand side, and you can see all of the different areas and operating companies that we run in this in the whole of E.ON SE. So today we're going to present to you a problem solving that we did for one of these opcos, which is the western part called Westenergie. And we are going to tell you how we increase the safety in one of our main activities that we do, basically. So first of all, a quick slide on E.ON as a whole. As you can imagine, the energy infrastructure transformation is very important for us. So everybody's talking about green and renewable, and the whole grid needs to be transformed. And basically, that is really driving our business at the moment massively. So today we are going to talk not about this whole energy system and all the changes that are going to happen over there, but about a very, I would say, operational or even mundane activity, which is around cutting cables, because that needs to happen if you want to transform the grid. So cutting cables really is a standard activity in the whole of the E.ON group. We do it in Westnetz about 5,000 times per year, and that is to connect new customers, charging infrastructure for cars, for example. The whole net needs to be further developed, etc., etc. So normally this cutting of cables is done, as you can see in the picture on the left-hand side over here. So you have a cable in the ground that needs to be cut. There is a piece of equipment that is operated hydraulically, and you see the frontline worker over there in the back of the picture who has his full PPE equipment, like Philip has today over here. He has a helmet, he has a mask, and he operates this wire cutting device from a safe distance. So what could possibly go wrong in a situation like this? Well, first of all, if you do this wire cutting, of course, the current needs to be off of the cable. Yeah. And unfortunately, what we have found is that cutting these wires and taking the cable off the grid goes wrong quite often in our case. So if you look at the 2021 numbers, 2021-2022 numbers, we had within Westnetz 13 near misses and even 3 larger injuries. Now, how important is that? So what happens if you cut a cable which is still connected to the grid? We have a small video around that. And so please keep in mind, this is a low voltage connections that you will see in the video. So that's the same type of connection as you have at home. And let's see what happens if you cut that with the same device as you saw in the previous picture, where there is still current on it. Yeah. Thank you. So I think you can see the massive impact of that. So this is one of our testing laboratories that we have for ourselves. There is a huge explosion. And so to explain it, so there is so-called magma is being spread around in the environment. And the temperature is even close to 5,000 degrees Celsius sometimes. So you can see the huge impact when something happens like that. So one last remark around that. So this cannot happen at home for you, because there you have your own switches and your gear, so don't be afraid. But it is a actual reality for our workers in the field on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. How did we tackle this problem?
Yes. So we tackle this problem since you must imagine that sometimes the workers also have the chance to cut these cable by hand. And if they cut it by hand, it means that they are very, very close to this possible danger. That's why we have got those injuries. So we tackle the problem. And since we are good Germans, of course, we did it in a very structured way. So it's the regular PDCA circle. At first, we discovered that there is a problem and we described it, analyzed it. Finally, we figured out some measures to avoid those injuries. And currently, we are implementing the solutions and check if it's sufficient or if we also do need to react on further incidents. So since we had 16 incidents, we also have got 16 times the chance to analyze those problems. So what you can see on the left-hand side is the way that we do it. We do it in a root cause analysis. So we see a symptom which grows up from the ground, and the symptom is a miscut. So what we do is now dig deeper and deeper and deeper until we figure out the root causes. And we have done this by talking to the people that suffered from those miscuts. And when I say that we talk to blue-collar employees, it does not mean that we go there and argue, but it means that we talk to them in a very fair way with the aim to learn from those mistakes in order to avoid them in the future. Secondly, of course, we have got very nice PowerPoint slides that describe everything well, how it should be. But finally, reality might differ from that. So we also went outside to the construction sites and had a close look at the process itself and how cables are being cut. Finally, 16 incidents means 16 times the chance to analyze the data that we have got. So what we have figured out, for instance, is that all injuries took place in the low voltage grid. Why? Because in medium voltage, there is a huge respect. Something really severe might happen, but low voltage, come on, it's like the voltage at home. You can maybe do it by hand. As we have seen, it can also become critically. So what I would like to point out at very first, and this is necessary to understand. Our workers were always 100% sure to cut the right cable. None of us gets up in the morning by saying, come on, let's do today, let's have an incident. So that's the very first part. Nevertheless, we have got those incidents. And we have figured out 3 main reasons for this. So the very first necessary precondition for a miscut is that we mix up the cables. So for some reasons, workers do not work on the right cable. Maybe documentation isn't good, or the identification process failed, or we were interrupted by doing our job by somebody else. Secondly, our workers stated that sometimes the instructions are too complicated. So sentences are too long, too much text, too complicated written. Sorry, we don't get it. So by these two preconditions, we have got a miscut, and danger arises if we use the wrong tools. So as I've said, it's also possible to use a hand-driven scissors, and it's of course a little bit more simple to use those compared to our old cutting tools that we have got. So our old cutting tools were way too heavy. It weighs like 20 to 25 kilograms. It's being transported in a large box, and it's not possible to always carry it with us on our buses. So if we need to cut a cable, we have to return to the station, get the device, and return to the construction site to finally cut the cable. So it's quite a complicated process for our colleagues.
So to explain that, so you had the heavy device.
Exactly.
And they could also do it with a smaller handheld device.
Exactly.
And which was sort of kind of the quick fix, basically, what people could use in the field. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes necessary, in this case, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, since it's such a multi-level problem, we decided to tackle these problems also on each level according to top principle. Top principle means that we developed technical, organizational, and personal solutions in order to avoid miscuts. So the very first technical solution is that we screened the market to find a new cutting tool. And today I brought a cutting tool, which you can see here. So you can maybe check the size of it. I can hold it easily with two hands. It's quite smaller. It's being run by a battery package. It's only possible to run it from distance, so you cannot touch the button like a screwdriver and then the scissors run. No, we have got a separate remote control that runs the device. And together with the manufacturer, we have added certain safety measures. So finally, we have got a full customized device for Westnetz. Secondly, in order that our colleagues are able to cut the right cable, we also worked on the identification process and implemented new devices, which you can see in the lower part of the picture. Next, we have worked on our instructions, and we did it really hard. In a large team of experts, we revised our instructions, and we have reduced them to the pure essence of what our workers need to know in easy sentences with in short sentences with easy words. Next, we took a management decision that all workers need to be trained in how to cut cables and in the instructions. So the decision is that nobody that does not participate this teaching will cut a cable anymore. Last and certainly not least, we still continue to sensitize on the danger of miscuts. So 2 weeks ago, we launched a video which shows up the danger of miscuts, and you have just seen a small piece of it. Of course, all this solution is not a brilliant idea of mine. It's a solution of many, many people and colleagues in our company. So the operations staff tested the new tools and gave us important feedback for the development. I personally do not know what the exact needs of blue-collar works are, so they have to tell. Secondly, the instructions were revised with experts from service teams, from special departments, from HSE. And of course, also management and works council were included in the solution process, as finally, we also, of course, need some money. And we are quite happy that our professional association supports the development of our new cutting tool. So it's also some kind of legalized process. Yes, finally, with all our measures have been rolled out in this year. So we incorporated the instructions. We by now rolled out all tools that we've developed. And we are looking forward to close the training of our staff. By now, we do evaluate our measures. We figured out some smaller parts where we can still improve, and that's measures that we're going to implement by next year.
Yes. And we're happy to say that we have much less incidents now. Huh?
True.
Yeah, so maybe you can give the latest numbers.
We have got like 10 incidents, but no injury.
Super, super. Yeah, so what was the overall effect on this, on the whole of the company? So first of all, very important is the employee engagement. So everybody in the company feels, also the frontline staff, that we care about them basically. And so we want to offer a safe working environment for everybody in the company. And we play huge emphasis on this. So it gives a better working culture, a safe working culture, and also the employees see that the upper management is really involved in this whole initiative. So that also increases the motivation and the acceptance of all the solutions that we provide forward. Of course, the next one is that we are going down on the curve. So we have a increase in development of our HSE culture. So we are going towards now level 3 and level 4 in the different risks that we have. And the other thing is that, so I showed you the map at the beginning of the presentation. So all the cases that we show and the solutions that we have are specifically for Westnetz. We're now replicating that solution across the whole of Germany and all the other 8 grid operating companies that we have, and there is a huge interest in there. So if you think about Westnetz has 5,000 cuts on a yearly basis, if you multiply that, let's say by 10 or 12 for the whole of Germany, we're talking about 50,000 cuts. And think about the risk of injuries and miscuts that could happen over there, and that could really have a huge impact on our employees and even society. Yeah. Good. So finally, a call for action from our side. So let's cut our cable safely, I would say. So this is the end situation that we now have after implementing everything. We have a trained employee that knows what to do, of course, wearing the right PPE equipment. We have we can identify the right cable that we need to cut because we have this new identification tool. And the tool itself, or the tool that is used for the cutting, is much more handleable by everybody. It is remote controlled, so we are creating a much better working and safe working environment for everybody. Yes, and we're happy about that. So that brings us to the end of this presentation, Mieke.
All right, thank you very much. I already got a question in the Q&A section, so I will ask that to you. But also for the other participants, if you have any questions, please ask them. We still have some time left, so please do. We got a question from, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Dzenen. And the question is, the new measurement device you mentioned for identifying the cables, are they calibrated annually, monthly, or maybe weekly, or?
The process contains the calibration of the device each time that we use it. So we turn off the cable and we move to the place where we want to measure it and calibrate the device itself at the cable, because each cable can be different. We have got many different types of cables, so also the reaction on the process is different. Therefore, we calibrate it each time. And of course, there are also regular services on these devices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, it's not an annual or monthly thing. It's every time you use this tool, it's calibrating.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, it's a great answer. So perfect. And it's pronounced as a J. So Janan was asking this question. Thank you very much. I'm just going to put this. Okay. Are there any more questions? If there are, please ask them. But in the meantime, I will ask one of my own questions since there are no more right now. I was just wondering, because as you mentioned, there were 16 incidents that you can look into and get the facts and what happened there, so we can improve. But then, if you've done that, you need to get a whole new creative idea on how the best situation will be, and I think you need to have a lot of agreement on that from several departments. With who did you come up with for this new device or new way of working?
Lots of people.
Yes, sometimes it appears like a basic democratic decision to do it. And actually, we really implemented, included HSE, of course. The workers were included in testing the device and giving ideas what the device needs to be able to do. We included the specialists on measurement for cables, certainly for the detection of the right cable. We included our management, because it was also some kind of change in our company. We were used to use the old device, and it was a clear decision to get something new, which is easier to handle, which is also available on each bus. So there is less risk to use the wrong tool. And it is still some kind of change for our people, because now they have got the new device, and we need to support them by the application of this device, not only technically, but also by mind.
Yeah,
what I would like
get
to
it.
add as well is, so we also involved the manufacturer of the device itself. So they were involved in designing the new tool. And I think you once told so that there are even a couple of patents running on the tool itself, right?
Yes, on the manufacturer side.
On the manufacturer side, yeah. So it really was a co-development also to come up with the right solution.
Yeah. Well, also great to hear that the workers were involved in this, because I think that you mentioned the acceptance of the tool and of the new way of working. Well, that must be the most important thing, right? The most important thing being safety, but also people are willing to work with the new tool.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
That's the mindset change that we need to have right now.
Yeah, exactly. So it must have helped a lot that you've involved them in the minor stage of this. Yeah. Okay, perfect. I also see a little visual indicator on one of the cables, like a red tag,
Yes.
which probably is telling you something about, okay, we do need to cut this cable or not.
That's
Can you
exactly
explain what it does?
You must imagine that in this case, we brought a cable which was dead. Well, it was not running. We just placed it in this setting of the construction site in order to not cause any other disturbances on our grid. And if you take a close look at the picture, you might already get worried by the huge amount of different cables and types.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so necessary to identify the correct cable. And if there's more than one cable in the same place, please mark it. So that's what we've done with this red stripe, because you must imagine that it's even happened that a worker was standing right above the cable that he wanted to cut. He identified it correctly. He changed the tools and finally cut the wrong cable. although
Really?
he was just above it.
Yeah.
So only small deviations from that what we expect might lead to a huge catastrophe, and that's why such a small stripe can actually
Save lives.
Save lives, yes.
Yeah. So that's why this is so important, of course. But what you already also mentioned is like no one is getting into work like, okay, so let's have an accident today or let's make a mistake.
Exactly.
So I really love that that is the point you were going from. Like, this is not something we do on purpose. It is something, it happens, and we need to get into our unconscious selves or something to see like, okay, but when can it go wrong then? So a really great job on this.
What Philip also told me is that so we are an operating company already for 100 years plus. If you look at the past, there were no miscuts, apparently, if you look at the reports.
Okay.
So of course there were miscuts, but they were not being reported because probably the culture was not that open enough, I would say, for people to also feel safe and comfortable so that they could report these mistakes. So I think that in terms of a culture change that we're now going through is that people feel that we care for them, and they know if they report an error, an operational error that they made, they are not being punished for it. We want to learn from it. We want to improve the business. Under safe circumstances for everybody.
Yeah, and of course, within Lean, that is the 100% the right mindset. And I think we need to spread that word so we can adapt it to every company, because that's the way it should be. We have 1 minute left, but I don't see any more questions. So I'm going to round up. Thank you very much, Huibert-Jan and Philip, for sharing your story. Thank you everyone for listening and for asking a question. So I think it's for participants back to the main stage. And one more time, thank you so much, Huibert-Jan and Philip.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot too.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.